Most industry professionals picture the Food and Drug Administration as a single, imposing door. You knock, hand over your paperwork, and hope the bureaucracy on the other side eventually gives you an answer. The reality is much more precise. When you submit a filing or face an inspection, you aren't dealing with a generalized entity. You interact with one highly specific, structurally isolated office within a deeply divided enforcement apparatus. This is Chapter 1 of the Regulatory Procedures Manual. It serves as the definitive administrative map for navigating this complex apparatus, providing a strict overview of the organizational structure of the offices involved in compliance. The manual establishes one primary structural division right from the start. On one side is the overarching Office of Regulatory Affairs, or ORA. On the other side are the highly specialized product centers. The ORA acts as the cross-cutting operational backbone of the entire agency. They supply the personnel on the ground, conducting physical inspections and managing imports across all product categories. The centers, such as the Center for Drug Evaluation and Research or the Center for Food Safety and Applied Nutrition, act as the specialized enforcement domains. They write the scientific rules and dictate policy for specific classes of products. Mastering FDA compliance requires understanding both the scientific regulations and the precise structural geography of the personnel who enforce them. Let's map the top-level structure. At the absolute peak of the hierarchy sits the Commissioner of Food and Drugs. Directly beneath them is the Associate Commissioner of Regulatory Affairs, or 𝗂𝗂𝗏. As the document outlines, the 𝗂𝗂𝗏 reports directly to the Commissioner and directs the Office of Regulatory Affairs. The immediate office of the 𝗂𝗂𝗏 manages 9 specific functional offices. These units are built to handle the physical realities of global field operations and international imports. 2 of the critical physical enforcement arms listed here are the Office of Enforcement and Import Operations and the Office of Criminal Investigations. Supporting that physical muscle are analytical and strategic branches, like the Office of Regulatory Science and the Office of Partnerships and Operational Policy. The functional statements defining the exact jurisdiction of these offices are housed in Staff Manual Guides, or SMGs. An SMG is a formal agency directive that documents FDA organizations, functions, and delegations of authority. The ORA's jurisdiction, for example, is detailed starting at SMG 1120.1. While the ORA provides physical enforcement capability in the field, the specific rules of engagement they execute are dictated by the specialized product centers. Moving down from the overarching ORA, we reach the first major specialized product pillar, the Center for Biologics Evaluation and Research, governed by SMG 1210.1. Within CBER, the primary enforcement hub is the Office of Compliance and Biologics Quality. This office contains specific functional divisions to handle complex biological products, including case management and manufacturing and product quality. Next is the Center for Drug Evaluation and Research, or CDER, operating under SMG 1260.1. Because of the massive scale of the pharmaceutical industry, CDER utilizes a highly fragmented compliance model. CDER enforces strict jurisdictional splits. Notice how the Office of Manufacturing Quality operates entirely separately from the Office of Unapproved Drugs and Labeling Compliance. They also maintain highly specialized enforcement nodes, including the Office of Scientific Investigations and the Office of Drug Security, Integrity, and Response. Rounding out the medical wing is the Center for Devices and Radiological Health, defined in SMG 1250.1. Unlike the Drug Center, CDRH consolidates its major regulatory actions under a single umbrella, the Office of Product Evaluation and Quality. However, CDRH does maintain a distinct jurisdictional carve-out, specifically for the Office of In Vitro Diagnostic Device Evaluation and Safety. As medical product classes increase in scientific and manufacturing complexity, their internal compliance offices fragment into increasingly specialized divisions to manage the associated risks. We now pivot to the FDA's jurisdiction over food, animal health, and tobacco, starting with the Center for Food Safety and Applied Nutrition, or CFAN, under SMG 1230A1.1. The structure of CFAN differs radically from the medical branches. Because the food supply chain is so vast, this center explodes into dozens of highly granular subnodes. The Office of Food Safety houses deeply domain-specific divisions. You have separate nodes for seafood science, produce safety, and plant products. There is also a distinct jurisdiction for the Office of Cosmetics and Colors, Additive Safety, and its overarching Office of Compliance. Next is the Center for Veterinary Medicine, or CVM, governed by SMG 1240.1. CVM operates with a more consolidated enforcement arm, grouping animal feeds and veterinary product safety under a single Office of Surveillance and Compliance. The final major regulatory pillar is the Center for Tobacco Products, or CTP, falling under SMG 1350.1. CTP's Office of Compliance and Enforcement contained its own core divisions, including one dedicated strictly to promotion, advertising, and labeling. Notably, CTP contains a unique State Programs division. Because tobacco sales occur at local retail levels, this center relies heavily on localized enforcement partnerships. Each of these centers is built to reflect the physical realities of their respective industries, requiring either hyper-specific commodity divisions to manage the food supply or localized state-level partnerships to monitor retail tobacco. When we pull back, we see the entire architectural blueprint of the FDA's compliance structure as defined by Chapter 1 of the Regulatory Procedures Manual. Visualizing this map shifts a compliance strategy from reactive confusion toward proactive, targeted engagement. Identifying the structural taxonomy is the first requirement. Reaching the right jurisdictional node is the final step. To bridge that gap, the manual concludes with the Enforcement Policy Telephone Directory. This section clearly separates the contact protocols, providing distinct directories for the overarching ORA field operations and the specialized FDA centers. Because this architecture undergoes constant modernization, the manual strictly advises professionals to cross-reference these lists with live internal directories available on the FDA Internet. Identifying the precise jurisdictional division, down to its exact staff manual guide code, is the foundational requirement for any regulatory procedure. The FDA is a meticulously engineered administrative system. Mastering this structural geography is the very first step toward effective regulatory navigation.